Think about your last big vacation. You probably remember, the feeling of the sand at that pristine beach, or maybe the first bite of a massive plate of pasta in Rome.
Oh, yeah. You were focused entirely on the destination.
Exactly. You probably didn't spend a single second thinking about the fact that your quick hotel booking just helped fund a $10 billion digital fortress.
Which is exactly how they want it, honestly. The infrastructure is supposed to be completely invisible. You just swipe a card, and the itinerary magically materializes.
But today, we are pulling up the floorboards to look at that invisible plumbing. Because the source material for this deep dive is the August 2026 earnings script from Booking Holdings. That's ticker symbol BKNG, by the way.
Right, a massive, massive company.
Yeah, and looking at how the world's largest online travel agency operates right now, well, it offers an absolute masterclass in how a dominant tech platform tries to defend its highly profitable empire against the ultimate disruptor.
Meaning artificial intelligence.
Right. Artificial intelligence.
And, we should probably frame the scale of this empire right away. We are talking about a portfolio that includes Booking.com, Agoda, Priceline, Kayak, and OpenTable.
It's everywhere.
Totally everywhere. Whether you are grabbing a domestic flight home for the holidays or orchestrating a 3-week international honeymoon, you are almost certainly moving through their ecosystem at some point.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to understand how they plan to fight off future tech threats, we first need to look at the massive war chest they just finished building in the second quarter of 2026.
The financials are pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers here don't even look like a travel company. This company is like the invisible plumbing of the global travel industry.
Well, the volume alone is staggering. They facilitated 325 million room nights in a single quarter.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a 5% increase from the previous year.
But the real story is the gap between two specific metrics. Our sources show gross bookings, which, is the total dollar value of everything travelers actually paid for through their platforms, hit $51 billion for the quarter.
Right.
But their actual revenue was $7.4 billion. So help me bridge that gap. They processed $51 billion, but kept $7.4 billion.
Well, that $7.4 billion is their take rate. It's the toll they charge for letting hoteliers and airlines use that invisible plumbing you mentioned.
Got it.
So when you spend $1,000 on a hotel stay, Booking isn't keeping $1,000. They are keeping a percentage of that transaction as a fee for connecting you to the hotel.
Makes sense.
But what's fascinating here is how efficiently they turn that toll into pure profit. Their adjusted EBITDA, which is their core operating profit, was $2.65 billion.
Which is a 36% profit margin.
Yeah, which is incredibly high for a company operating at this kind of global scale.
Yeah.
I mean, to put that in context, if you look back at their trailing adjusted EBITDA from the absolute trough of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Oh, when global travel basically evaporated.
Exactly. They were sitting at $0.8 billion then. Today, that trailing 12-month figure is $10.36 billion.
That is a 12-fold increase.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't just a travel company. It's effectively a cash-printing machine that occasionally books hotel rooms.
Yeah, they are essentially taking all that toll money, paying their overhead, and converting nearly everything left into free cash flow. It's a machine.
Our source material even grades them on the Rule of 40 scorecard, which is a classic benchmark for the health of a software company, right?
Right. You add their revenue growth rate to their profit margin, and anything over 40 means they are crushing it. Booking hit 44% this quarter.
Which proves they are a high-quality, low-volatility franchise.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't sacrificing profit just to buy growth. They're doing both simultaneously.
Absolutely.
So how exactly did they build this engine? Because you don't get a 36% margin just by throwing up a website and hoping people click on hotels.
No, definitely not.
Our sources point to a massive, multi-year shift in their underlying business model. They transition from being an agency to being a merchant.
And that is the pivotal shift. Historically, Booking used the agency model. Picture how this used to work. You'd go on Booking.com, reserve a room in Paris, but you wouldn't actually pay until you arrived at the front desk in France.
Oh, right.
Booking would then have to track down that hotel later and send them an invoice for their commission.
That sounds like a logistical nightmare. You are relying on a boutique hotel in Paris to pay an invoice on time, just so you can get your cut.
Yeah, and it leaves immense value on the table. So they aggressively pivoted to the merchant model. Now, when you book that room in Paris, Booking processes your credit card right there on their app up front.
Wow, okay.
Today, merchant revenue represents 73% of all their gross bookings.
But wait, why take on all that financial plumbing? Processing millions of global credit card payments sounds incredibly complex. Why do they want that headache?
Because of the float and the foreign exchange, think about the timeline of your money. If you book a non-refundable trip for October in July, Booking takes your money in July. But they don't necessarily have to pay the hotel until you actually stay there. They get to hold on to billions of dollars for months, earning interest on it.
Ah, so they were acting almost like a bank.
In a way, yeah. And then there are the foreign exchange spreads. If you are paying in US dollars for a hotel that charges in euros, Booking handles the currency conversion and takes a microscopic slice of that exchange.
And when you multiply that tiny slice by 325 million room nights, it becomes a massive profit driver.
Exactly.
But our sources say this merchant shift isn't just about skimming currency exchanges. It is fundamentally about enabling what management calls the connected trip.
Right, because it is infinitely easier to sell you a bundled trip like your flight, your hotel, your rental car, and a museum pass if you only have to swipe your credit card once on their platform.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If they were still on the agency model, you'd be paying 4 different vendors and 3 different currencies.
And the data proves it's working. These multi-vertical connected trip transactions are growing at double the pace of overall transactions.
It's huge for them.
But let me push back on this strategy for a second. Wait, isn't this just the classic walled garden playbook? They process the payment so they can trap the listener inside their ecosystem for every leg of the trip.
It's absolutely an attempt to lock you in. But it isn't just about trapping you. It's about avoiding the Google tax.
The Google tax?
Yeah. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it comes down to a crucial metric called the direct booking mix. Currently, Booking's direct mix is sitting in the mid-60s% range.
Meaning over 60% of their customers are going straight to the Booking app or website rather than starting their journey by Googling, like, cheap hotels in London.
Precisely. If they don't own you as a direct customer, they have to constantly pay search engines like Google to acquire you through paid ads.
Oh, I see.
Every time you start a search on Google instead of the Booking app, Booking has to buy that click, which instantly shrinks their profit margin.
Which brings us to the Genius Loyalty Program. Our sources make it clear this is the foundation of their direct booking moat.
It really is the ultimate behavioral lever. Once you hit level 2 or level 3 in the Genius program, you start seeing banners for 20% off rooms and free breakfast.
Right. Everyone loves free breakfast.
Exactly. And Booking knows that once you see those perks, you stop opening Google to cross-shop. You just trust the app.
And it is working phenomenally well. Level 2 and Level 3 Genius members now make up over 30% of their active customers.
It's a huge chunk.
Yeah, but the really wild stat is that those top-tier members drive a high 50s% of all room nights booked. The super users are driving the machine.
Because owning those super users directly without paying a search engine to find them every single time is vastly more profitable.
Okay, so let's summarize the reality of their business right now. They are a cash-gushing fortress. They control the payments. They are earning interest on the float. Their super users are locked in. And they are printing billions of dollars at a 36% margin.
That's a pretty sweet spot.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If the underlying mechanics are so flawless, why is the stock trading at a relatively low multiple?
Good question.
I mean, our sources note it is trading at about 20 times trailing earnings. For a dominant tech platform posting these kinds of numbers, that is surprisingly cheap. It is sitting at the low end of its post-COVID valuation range.
Well, that is the multi-billion-dollar question. And the answer is that Wall Street is terrified of a structural threat looming on the horizon that could bypass everything we just described.
Artificial intelligence. Specifically the threat of AI disintermediation.
Yes. Investors are deeply anxious that AI assistants will steal the customer relationship. Imagine a scenario where you no longer go to Booking.com.
Oh, wait.
Instead, you just speak to your phone and say, book me a romantic weekend in Kyoto for under $2,000. And an AI agent scours the internet, finds the flights, negotiates the hotel rate, and books it all in the background.
In that scenario, Booking.com gets relegated to just being a dumb pipe, a commodity backend that the AI uses to pull inventory rather than the consumer-facing brand that owns the loyalty.
It is the exact same anxiety we saw a generation ago. Individual websites used to own their traffic. Then search engines came along, and Google stepped between the website and the user. Google became the middleman.
Right.
Now, Wall Street is worried AI will step between the traveler and the online travel agency.
But let me look at the actual data from our source material, because this seems like a massive disconnect. Right now, referral traffic coming from large language models like ChatGPT or Claude is still below 1% of their total room nights.
Barely a drop in the bucket.
1%. If AI referral traffic is currently less than 1%, are investors just chasing ghosts? Why is Wall Street so spooked by something that isn't even showing up in the data yet?
This raises an important question about how markets actually function. Wall Street is rarely pricing in the reality of today. They are pricing in the horizon risk.
So projecting way out.
Yeah, a 20x price-to-earnings ratio implies that investors acknowledge the present-day fundamentals are incredible, but they have zero confidence in what the terminal value of the company will be in 5 to 10 years. Will Booking still own the customer, or will an AI?
But Booking isn't just sitting still waiting for the AI asteroid to hit. They are making aggressive defensive moves to co-opt the technology.
Oh, they are actively leaning in. They are partnering with OpenAI in a specific cost-per-click test group to understand how AI search traffic converts.
Interesting.
And they're also an early partner in Google's agentic booking effort.
Agentic booking being the concept where an AI agent doesn't just give you a list of links, but actually has the agency to execute complex tasks and spend money on your behalf.
Exactly. And they are building proprietary tools, too. Priceline launched an AI agent named Penny that integrates the checkout process directly into the chat window.
Oh, wow.
They've also deployed voice AI that is now handling the majority of eligible customer service calls. Our sources highlight that this is cutting service costs per booking by double digits.
So they're using AI to expand margins internally, which is smart, but management believes their real defense against AI taking over isn't a software feature, it's a physical reality. It's their supply side.
The 4.4 million properties.
Specifically the long-tail properties. We aren't talking about massive corporate chain hotels here. We are talking about independent hotels, boutique stays, and alternative accommodations. Those make up roughly 90% of booking supply.
And this is where the AI threat hits a wall.
How so?
Well, if an AI wants to book a room at a massive standardized chain hotel, it is easy to scrape that data. But if you run a tiny 6-room bed and breakfast in the Greek Isles, you do not have a dedicated IT department building software to talk to ChatGPT.
Right. You rely entirely on Booking's APIs. For anyone unfamiliar, an API is basically the digital translator that lets two pieces of software talk to each other.
Yeah.
That Greek hotelier relies on Booking's API to connect their little reservation book to the entire global internet, handling their availability, taking the payments, and ensuring compliance across 220 countries.
And management's bet is that no AI model can easily scrape, aggregate, or replicate 4.4 million of those unique, highly fragmented relationships.
It's too complex.
Way too complex. The payments rails and the direct API connections to independent hoteliers create a relational moat. An AI might be able to chat with a user, but without the physical plumbing connecting to millions of independent front desks, the AI can't actually fulfill the trip.
So Booking's defense is essentially, good luck trying to herd 4.4 million independent hotel owners onto a new system.
Pretty much.
It's a fascinating standoff. But, building and defending that moat takes an incredible amount of cash and time. And right now, their ability to generate that cash is hitting a very real physical roadblock.
Yeah, while AI is the existential debate, the immediate reality is that their growth is actually decelerating due to macroeconomic and geopolitical pressures.
The most glaring issue in the earnings script is the drag from the Middle East.
Yeah.
The ongoing conflict has caused a massive disruption in international travel.
It really has.
Airline capacity out of the conflict zone is reduced, and flight prices are elevated. Because of this, their total flight growth was just 4% for the quarter.
And that creates a cascading problem. If travelers aren't taking long, expensive international flights, they aren't booking the highly profitable 2-week hotel stays that go with them.
Right.
Management noted that while the direct cancellations normalized a bit by June and July, the indirect pressure, the fact that fewer people are flying long haul, is going to linger entirely through the third quarter.
Which explains the noticeable step down in their guidance. For Q3, management is projecting revenue and EBITDA to go up only 4 to 6%.
Yeah, that's a sharp drop from the 8 and 9% growth we just talked about for Q2.
And for the full year 2026, they actually trimmed their expectations slightly, guiding for high single-digit growth, explicitly citing that lower flight ticket growth.
Though we should point out, it is not entirely bleak regionally. They have two very strong geographical anchors balancing out that drag. The U.S. domestic demand remains incredibly resilient, growing in the high single digits.
And then there's what our sources call Asia ascendancy. The combined force of Booking.com and Agoda is growing at a mid-single-digit pace.
Agoda is a massive player in the Asian market. They leverage highly localized payment options to capture share.
It gives them a highly durable second growth engine outside of the sluggish European and Middle Eastern market.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? We have a company printing billions of dollars, but facing a massive long-term AI threat and dealing with short-term geopolitical turbulence that is actively slowing their growth.
It's all to juggle.
It is. How does management keep investors happy while navigating this? Well, it all comes back to how they're using their cash. We mentioned earlier they returned $4.1 billion to shareholders, with $3.7 billion of that going directly to stock buybacks.
That is the crucial lever. They reduced their total outstanding share count by 6% year over year.
With their transformation program saving $650 million a year, these aggressive stock buybacks are basically acting as financial shock absorbers for your portfolio while the company drives over these geopolitical speed bumps.
That's a great way to put it. Let me try a mechanical analogy here to explain why that matters so much. Think of the company's total outstanding shares like a giant pizza.
I like pizza.
Right now, because of the geopolitical speed bumps, the overall size of the pizza, their total profit, is only growing by high single digits. It's slowing down.
Right.
But management is taking their massive free cash flow and constantly buying up and destroying slices of that pizza.
Got it. And if there are fewer total slices, the slice you hold in your hand mathematically represents a larger piece of the company. It becomes more valuable even if the total pie isn't growing as fast.
Exactly, which explains the magic trick in their guidance. They can project high single-digit growth for their actual operating profit, but because they are aggressively shrinking the share count, they can project low to mid-teens growth for their earnings per share.
It is a brilliant piece of financial engineering. As long as they maintain that 36% margin and keep generating roughly $3.6 billion in free cash flow a quarter, they can keep buying back stock.
They are literally buying themselves time, rewarding the investors who stick around while they wait for international travel to recover and while they fortify their supply-side moat against AI.
It is an incredible balancing act between managing the physical reality of global travel and the digital reality of the future internet. Let's pull all these threads together.
Sure.
Booking Holdings is undeniably a wide moat compounder. They delivered a completely clean earnings beat, proving their merchant model and Genius loyalty program are operating at peak efficiency. Yet because of Horizon fears, they are trading at the low end of their post-COVID valuation.
Yeah, and in the short term, the swing factor is clearly the Middle East. Investors will be watching to see if they can beat that very conservative 4 to 6% guidance for Q3 as flight capacities adjust.
But the ultimate long-term debate, the reason this deep dive matters, whether you are actively investing in tech or just someone trying to book a weekend getaway, is whether their 4.4 million unique long-tail properties are enough to stop AI from stealing the customer relationship.
It will be the defining test of their business model over the next decade.
I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder as we wrap this up. Think about your next big vacation a few years from now.
Okay.
Imagine you don't open an app. You don't scroll through hundreds of hotel photos. You don't even look at a screen. Instead, a highly personalized AI agent plans, bundles, and books your entire global itinerary perfectly via a simple voice command.
Just talking to your phone.
Yeah, you tell it what you want while driving to work, and it happens. If you never once look at a booking website who actually owns you as a customer.
That is the Horizon risk perfectly distilled.
Does the booking platform even matter anymore to you, or do they just become the invisible, commoditized plumbing of the internet, silently processing your payments in the dark?
Definitely something to chew on.
Something to think about the next time you marvel at how magically easy it is to book a trip halfway around the world. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. As a quick reminder, this exploration was for educational purposes only. We always encourage you to keep questioning the world of information around you. Until next time.